Here's a deck for Marvel Snap's newest card, Emperor Hulkling. Go ahead, screenshot it. It's not my favorite of the bunch, but go ahead and enjoy it. Don't worry, I'll tell you which one actually is and why. But first, just in the comments, is this a card that Marvel Snap needed? He's a 6'11", great stats overall. At the start of the game, copy the text of a random 6-cost card. Now, the last time we saw random 6-cost card was Valentina, and that really only worked out in the Loki decks sometimes as a spin on it if you really wanted to, and then Loki got changed. So we all know this feeling of what does a random 6-cost card actually do for you. What I'm gonna really push actually in his description is at the start of the game, because I think all of his success is dependent on that text at the start of the game. If this is an opening animation card and you know exactly which 6-cost card he's taken on from the very beginning, he's a 4-star card, in my opinion. If you don't, and it's just random based on whatever draw happens, then he's a 2-star card. He's a little bit of a meme in certain ways, but he has incredibly good stats. Looking at the 6-cost cards themselves, there's a couple of really good hits. And I mean, I'm not talking about the obvious ones, like Doctor Doom, in my opinion, is an incredibly solid hit. I mean, of course, you have your standards like Goliath or Mockingbird even, or Red Hulk. Like, there's some what we'll call the generically good hits, and there are some bad ones as well. As you get further down, Infinite, probably not a good hit. Agatha, upon draw, once it's in your hand, then now you've got Hulkling controlling your hand, but for weaker power than what Agatha is. So there's a couple of bad hits in here. I think Destroyer is a little bit of a problem card if we go back up to the top. Keep an eye on Null and the discard cards, because there are some discard decks that this card is going to work really well in organically, but there are other discard decks that probably just have better options. It's just more of a spice play, if you will. So I think this is going to be an okay card as a 6-cost card. But again, it's all really dependent on what you know from the very beginning. If you know that it's an overall bigger card and you're benefiting because of that, and it's something along the lines of maybe an Odin and now it has more power, or a Doom and it has more power, it's great because you get the opportunity to capitalize on it differently. But the question then becomes, how do you do that? You get more biggers. Just wait, before that, there's one thing you should know about the spotlights that are happening this week as well. Emperor Hulkling is releasing alongside Cannonball and Nimrod. And while Emperor Hulkling is, of course, the feature, the Cannonball has pretty much straight up fallen out of the meta ever since they nerfed him to the ground and via the change of Professor X. We all know what happened there. But the one I want to highlight the most is actually Nimrod. Not because Nimrod itself is a good card, because of the upcoming season with Symbiote Spider-Man in particular. You may want to pick up Nimrod if you haven't already. What's a Symbiote Spider-Man? Follow for more. More is better in the case of Hela. So I'm going back to my old original build when Supergiant came out, which I still think to this day is the most consistent build of Hela, because you have Magic, you have Crystal, you have Jubilee, you have Supergiant, you have the ability to delay and time, and there's so many good things that happen because of that consistency piece. Now, if we put Emperor Hulkling in that onslaught spot, I think there are more upsides to having that 4 power increase, including the ability to potentially become an onslaught. And if you look at how wide some of the other options could be from it, I mean, you could put this down as essentially a 5'11" if it turns into a Sasquatch, so it fits into the curve pretty well that way. If it hits a Doctor Doom, you're only reinforcing, and now it's a 6'15". There are several different ways that it also mitigates that downside of what Hulkling could potentially be, because you're never playing the actual card. So I think that Super Heling, if you will, is something to keep an eye on if you are a Hela player. Look, Hela had that little -2 nerf. I just don't think it affects this build of the deck that much. What other deck likes more of those big 6-cost cards? Ramp. You want to ramp out Emperor Hulkling. You want to get that big effect out earlier, yet alone one that could lead to more double effects. If it takes on another Odin, if it takes on another Magneto, if it takes on another Doctor Doom, or really any of the 6-cost cards, because that's one of the biggest downsides of a Blink style ramp deck. You don't really know what's going to be the best 6-cost card. So now in this case, it actually gives you enough variety and randomness that it overall should benefit you almost every single time, unless if it happens to hit something like Destroyer. Because no matter what, you're ramping this card out via Electro, via Wave, via Jubilee. You can blink it out. There's so many ways to get a solid 6/11 with no downside, because if it has a Hela effect or an Apocalypse effect, it's still a 6/11, and that should not go unnoticed. Now, I did open up by saying this is not my favorite build, even though it is my most unique build, all of them. Don't worry, that one's next. This one stands out specifically because of the new version of Moon Knight. And I went back and forth on the different 5 costs here because I wanted to lean, of course, into the Black Bolt Stature synergy and Ghost Rider bringing some things back. But having Moon Knight in this deck in particular, look at its targets. It could target the Ghost Rider, which if it does, it's not the end of the world. It still discards a card. But you have Proxima Midnight, you have Emperor Hulkling, and Infinaut. So it's win-win-win on a Black Knight deck. And I wanted to put in a Black Knight deck because I recently just got spanked by one and forgot how good this deck actually was. So if we put that ramp piece into there, we can have a really strong lane. For example, if you Ghost Rider back either Emperor Hulkling or Infinaut, okay, then let's do another ramp up. Let's get out that Black Bolt easier, that Stature easier, or I keep an eye out on Black Knight. I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes, some version of this becomes a very successful build for Hulkling, because it's really good stats for the Ebony Blade on top of potentially extra effects that could be really good, like Hela, or if it gets discarded and it ends up being a Helicarrier, now you have that win-win scenario built into it. The Apocalypse I mentioned earlier, what succeeds because of it. I think there's some good here in Black Knight. This one's my favorite. Don't worry, you don't need Wiccan. Okay, I'm just going to throw that out there. I like Wiccan in a Thanos deck, especially a build like this. Wiccan can be Lockjaw. Now, with that said, Emperor Hulkling is a big, strong card that could be, as I mentioned before, something like a Sasquatch, Mockingbird, Red Hulk, Scar. These are all cards that benefit off of other big cards. And Thanos is very much so a deck that likes that. Now, with the emergence of Marvel Boy and the brand new season pass, Hawkeye Kate Bishop, I see a lot of potential to play Thanos a little differently. I like the idea of Sunspot with Wiccan very much so. So if you take out Wiccan, feel free to flex out that Sunspot. But this specific deck in particular looks at getting that Wiccan to pop off, and then Sunspot easily grows to a 1, 5, 6, or 7 without even trying, while putting it on the board as also fodder if need may be, because Marvel Boy is going to be able to reinforce it. All of the ones that come from Kate Bishop are going to get reinforced by Marvel Boy, and all of the stones. This is a straight up Scar Thanos deck that has taken a Marvel Boy Zoo twist and leaned into all of that mana that you can get via Wiccan. Like I said, though, if you don't have Wiccan, it's not the end of the world. I would recommend Lockjaw and then swap out Sunspot for another 1-drop of your choice. I'll let you decide and let me know in the comments which one you would swap it with. But I think the build overall for this deck is much more approachable, and I do think that new Thanos is very much a threat in the meta. We just haven't experimented enough with it. Should you get him? Honestly, probably if you like Ramp or Thanos, I would say, yeah, go ahead. Pretty good card. Especially if we find out on turn 1 that you can get the reveal. But outside of that, probably save your keys for September, because I think every single card in the month of September is one you need to pay attention to and probably get.